Earl the Pearl Monroe, welcome to our show Profiles.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
And it is an honor to meet you, one of my favorite players of all time.
Well, I don't know. I've heard a lot of different things, but I'll take that as a compliment.
Well, you are a basketball legend for sure. And most recently, creator of an exciting new record label, Reverse Spin Records.
Well, I've been involved in music for about, 30, 35 years.
Yeah.
And this new adventure is really an adventure because now that I'm getting back into it, the record industry has really changed. So, you've got to do things to kind of change with the times. And now we've got two artists at least that I feel very, very confident, China Black and Sierra Core.
And I want to talk about those two artists in depth in a minute. But thinking out of the box is something that you've done, obviously, with the record company, but you also did it in basketball for many years.
Well, yes and no. What I used to like to think is that, sooner or later everything catches up to you. Oh. And as I was starting to play like in the early 60s, I didn't really have anybody to mold my game after. So I just did it mostly trial and error. I started playing at the age of 14, which is a little late in anybody's standards, but it gave me a big impetus to try and get better because everybody else was older than I was, and at least as old, and they were all good.
Yeah. Reverse Spin Records reminded me of your best move, which was kind of a reverse spin, and I swear to this day, I don't think any defender in the NBA has figured out how to cover that move. Would you agree with that?
Well, I won't be so patting on my back, so to speak, but I will.
That move is like I've never seen another player that can quite duplicate it.
Well, again, it goes back to trial and error.
Yeah.
Basically, when I was playing, early on, I was doing this, and it was just part of what I did.
Sure.
And it wasn't until I got to, in college and then in the pros that people would say, oh, you're doing a spin. Well, this is what I did naturally, so I didn't know exactly what they were talking about. So I went and I looked at films and I saw myself what I was doing.
Yeah.
So, people wanted you to tell them how you did it. I had to go back to films to tell them how I did it.
How you did it. Is there another player in the NBA today that reminds you of yourself?
Not really.
Not really?
No, because, I think, my game was really unique because it was born out of trial and error, in the playgrounds, And today's players, they've gone to camps, they have, major instructions that they can rely on, to develop their game. I really didn't have that. It was just me going up against guys beating me down and me learning from that.
Now, how do you feel about today's salaries in the NBA compared to when you played, and what was the highest salary you ever made?
I just say bravo.
Bravo for them.
To them. I mean, they're able to get it, and there are guys like myself and all the other guys who played before that paved the way for this.
You sure did.
This is what happens. It's progress. And
highest salary you ever made?
About $250.
About $250. Today, that would be a bonus?
That would be car fare to Atlantic City.
Now, let's talk about your latest venture, which has been in the music business with the creation of Reverse Spin Records. What motivated you to start this label at this time in New York City?
Well, it goes back to, really my early beginnings.
Yeah.
My father used to sing and dance with Bessie Smith. So when he came home, we would always be listening to the stories and so forth and so on. Yeah. And then in being from Philadelphia, my brother-in-law used to manage a group called The Intruders. So I started back in the 70s. Actually, when I got to New York, I started managing two guys who came back from playing in Jimi Hendrix's band, the Arlene Twins. Yeah, and I did promotion when I was on the road with the Knicks. I take the records to Millie Jackson, Fatback Band, Joe Simon, to the disc jockeys in different cities and whatnot that we went to. Right. So it was a progression, And I formed my own label and did off-Broadway musicals in the 80s. So I've always been involved.
A new venture.
Yeah.
And it sounds like if you hadn't played basketball, the music business would have been where you would be at.
Yeah, I would think so because
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
it that much, and it goes beyond being a passion. You know, it's something that I think that's needed for a lot of young kids who are out there that don't get the opportunity. And what I do is I go out and look for those young kids that have that
Sure.
type of talent.
Sure. Now, unlike many labels, Reverse Spin Records plans to represent artists from hip hop, R&B, reggae, and pop. So you're going to cover the whole gambit.
Yeah, well, you know, we with our two artists that we have, we are already covering the whole gamut.
Really?
With China Black, she's Haitian, so we have that influence in her music. She used to rap. She sounds a little bit like Missy Elliott. So that
She sure does.
And now the music that we're doing now is just more in line with the, let's see, the Will I Am type of things, musically. And then Sierra Core, she's a pop artist. She's more like Fergie or Nelly Furtado, Lady Gaga. And these are, this is where we're going. And I think that, being on the crux of what the music is and understanding the type of artists that you have, is really important. And we're trying our best to try and focus in on their particular audiences, not the same audiences, but their particular audiences.
Do you plan on doing any artist development, let's say the way Motown once did it?
That's what we do, because all the major labels, they don't do artist development anymore.
Lost art.
Exactly, and especially the way the business itself is going now. It's not such a thing of being so radio driven. I mean, now you have the internet and you have all those different,
Mediums.
lifestyle websites out there that you have to touch base with. And it's made it easier in some respects for artists to get on.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's also made it harder because now it's not an album market anymore.
No.
It's a singles market.
Yeah.
So
like it was in the 50s.
Exactly. Remember those little
I have many of them.
I have a little 45 disc in my jacket I brought with me. So I carry it around with me just because.
to remind people how it was. What will be your role within Reverse Spin Records on a daily basis?
Well, on a daily basis, I basically oversee, everything that's going on. We're in touch with the publicity people. We're in touch with the other people that we outsource
Sure.
a lot of our stuff to. And I'm in the studio, so I like the music. I love the music, and if I was anything else, the only thing I'm sorry I wasn't able to do is sing.
Really? Are you a good singer?
Oh, yes, I am.
So the record company is pretty much a team, as was your basketball career.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, anything that you get into and you're in it with other people, it's all about teamwork, because everybody has to uphold their end of it to be successful.
Absolutely. What do you see as your biggest challenges in today's music industry?
Well, the biggest challenge is that you've got now, radio stations now have really segmented themselves. You've got, mostly the top 40 radio stations where now, whereas the larger acts were getting maybe 80 spins a week, now they're getting 120 spins a week. So it's shrinking, the bottom for the new artists to try and get in on those stations, as well as with the hip hop. Hip hop stations, they just play hip hop. So now you have R&B, whereas you can't go to all the stations that you used to go to. You got hip hop, you got the hip hop stations, you got the oldie stations and things like that. So, you got to really find your niche. And now that niche is found basically on the internet.
So what will be new and different with Reverse Spin Records?
Well, we'll just be, hopefully we'll be that label that has the hits. And before you were able to put out an album, and maybe you have 2 records on that album that you might. We want to be able to put out, one after the other, and that's what we're in the studio. I think now by having a studio, you're able to really dictate the type of music that you want to, and you got to make sure that it's the type of music that fits the audience that you're trying to see.
What do you hope that Earl Monroe's legacy will be?
Well, that I was here made a difference. I helped people, and very simple.
And continue to do so. I just want to say one more time, Earl of Pearl, it's been An honor to meet you today. You're looking great.
Well, thank you.
And I just want to wish you best of luck one more time with Reverse Spin Records. With you at the helm, I'm sure the label will be a big success. Thanks for stopping by today.
Thanks for having me.
It's been my pleasure.